Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So I've forgotten what number this love story is today. Is it part 9 maybe? Losing track. So here I am, I'm in the UK in my temporary barn conversion. It's probably a bit echoey. I can't speak too loud because it's quite early on a Sunday morning. And you can hear all the neighbours talking in their rooms, below and over there. Weird. Where do we leave it? Oh. So John was in bed with Jum and he was suddenly alarmed because first time he sort of put his hands on Jum, and we left it that he was giving her more of a cuddle. And so many of you in the comments from the previous video immediately went, "It's a lady boy. It's a lady boy." No. No, Jum is a lady. What actually happened was when John was running his hand down Jum's back, he was alarmed to find a lot of scarring. Now, he possibly jumped to the conclusion maybe she had been seriously burnt and it was burns, but then as he felt it, it was more of lines, scars. Jum immediately stopped what she was doing and said to him, "Oh, your face says it all, your hand on my back." She says, "This is one of the reasons I didn't want to get too full on, because you're the first gentleman, first man that I have got close to in the bed with sex since my partner went." She said, "Let me show you and then let me explain." So she took her top off and turned around, and her back, it was scarred with lines. I never saw it, so he just said it was as if someone had whipped her. Seriously, there were hundreds of scars on her back, and some of them looked quite severe. And she turned around and put her shirt back on and said, "My husband before beat me, seriously, really, really bad. I was in an abusive relationship and I'm ashamed of it all, and also on the top of my thighs." And then she showed him. I can understand, from what he's told me, I can understand. But she said, it's always put me off getting in a relationship, always put me off going with another man. And one of the reasons with our age difference, what's she, 43? He's 68. That she feels comfortable with him being an older man. There's less likelihood of him doing what her previous partner had. And you hear so many stories about relationships, abusive relationships and things. And John was partly shocked, and he was very empathetic. He was very, he understood. He didn't, but he did, and he said, "Do you want to talk about it?" And she said, "Not now, maybe tomorrow." And she immediately said, "But now you've seen that, we can go further." And bang, straight into aerobics. I'm not going into those details. Anyway, in the morning, they got up and she'd made breakfast for him. And he'd been going there a few nights now, hadn't he? And she'd said, "Thank you for last night, and I enjoyed it very much." And he also, yeah, it was great. And he said, "I hadn't been with anyone, He didn't say about the soapy massage, kept that quiet. But he he was a little bit shocked, and he said, "I'm so sorry for what happened to you. And I can't even imagine it." And they started chatting and chatting and chatting, and it was like a big weight lifted off Jum's shoulders, and she totally relaxed, and she said, "I never thought I could ever be with someone again and talk about it." And she says, "You've really helping me." And he said, "I never thought I'd be with someone after my wife passed." He said, "I didn't come here for a relationship." He said, "I sort of came here to see the rest of my life out," which was fair enough. No Black Elite mug. I left it in Thailand. Damn. I have to buy another one. Yeah, so really, really good. Relationship's fantastic. At this point, he's like, "I've got to go home, and when will we see each other?" And she said, "Well, should we leave it for a couple of days? Because if we see each other every single night, it's going to get quite boring." And he said, "I agree." He said, "Need a bit of space, don't we?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "Gives me time to think about what's happened and analyse it." And he said, "Yeah, good idea." He said, "We'll catch up tomorrow night." He said, "Leave it tonight." He said, "I'll take you out for a meal." He said, "I'll come round here, whatever, 6:30, 7, and then we'll go off on the bikes." She said, "Brilliant." And that was it. He went home. Yeah. You thought she had a male genital. Yeah, I left it in that way. I'm sorry. Anyway, he gets back. Triple Z is at his house cleaning, and he's like, comes in, and she's got music on and singing, and she's just got a pair of really, really short shorts and a t-shirt, he said to me, every time I saw her, I could not believe how beautiful she was. And he said, "I've just come from having aerobics with a beautiful woman, and then there's another one in my house." Of course, I asked him, I said, "Weren't you tempted?" And he said, "Wow." He said, "She was beautiful." He said, "If my son was alive," he said, "I would put my son in front of her for sure, because she's that pretty." Ah, you're right. Anyway, she's happy to see him, and she asked him, "Everything okay? And is he happy with everything she's doing?" And he's like, "Yeah, brilliant." She says, "You've cut my hours in half." She's only working, 10 till 4, 4 days, 24 hours instead of 50 for the same money. She said, "It's amazing what you've done for me, and I can't thank you enough." And I'm like, "Oh, no, don't." And he's like, it's absolutely fine." He said, "It's not an issue." He said, "You're doing a great job." And he said, "You're saving me having to do all the things I don't like doing and making my life easier." And he said, why he said it, he told me this. He said, "You're very pleasing on the eyes." And she sort of looked at him like, "You think I'm pretty?" And he's like, "Oh, no, don't do it." Well, what would you do? I mean, if you actually, a lot of guys, they go around these places looking for that perfect woman, and he suddenly there could be two now in his life. What would you do? What did he do? Anyway, he went out of the shower and got changed, and he's like, "I'm not doing my walk today." He said, "I'm going to the pub to see the boys." And a bit later on lunchtime, he leaves Triple Z and off he goes to the pub. And his lads are there. And he starts talking a bit, and then they ask, "How's the girlfriend?" And he's like, "Yep, fantastic." And they're all sort of looking at him, and he's smiling, and they're like, "Yeah, you're going a bit further now, aren't you?" And he's like, "Maybe." And they're like, "You're happy. Really good to see you're happy." And then he says it. He says, "I've got a new cleaner." And they're like, "Okay." And he says, "She is stunning. Absolute." And they're all like, "Oh, is she now?" Of course, every guy's interest is perked. And they're like, when does she work? And he tells them. And they're like, two of them are chatting away. We're going to have to come to your house for a drink and say hello, see your cleaner. And he's like, oh, what have I done? Yes, what have you done? Bless him. Anyway, over the next, let's go forward a bit. Over the next few weeks, it's pretty standard. Goes for his walk in the morning, sees Jum, says hello. They go out for evening meals. They spend more time in the bed. And it gets to the stage where John's saying to Jum that I've sort of got into, as always, halfway through recording, and the wife rings. Mem's gone back up to Loughborough, back to work. So, yeah, they got sort of stuck in a bit of a rut not so much of a rut, they're still in a honeymoon period. And he says to Jum, yeah, we're doing the walk every day, we're doing the same things. And I'm getting into a sort of routine that's, I don't want to get bored, he said. I haven't really seen much of Thailand, I haven't done a lot. I have got a friend in Hua Hin. That's the only place I've seen. And Jum says, well, you don't work, I don't work. We could do some travelling if you want. And he's like, I would really like that. And she says, well, what sort of travelling would you like? And I'd have to look at my budget. And he said, Jum, he said, I'll pay for everything. I'll pay for absolutely everything. So you don't pay anything. He said, trust me, it's not a problem. And she says, okay, that's really generous of you. And he said, let's plan a trip. And he said, let's go 5-star. Let's go really nice trip somewhere. And she says, wow, okay. And he says, I like the sea, I like water. I would like to see a bit more of that. And she immediately says, well, south. Lady after my own heart. And she starts telling him about different areas and stuff. And they start planning. But what does he do with his cleaner in his house if he goes away on a trip? Jum and him sort of say 10-day trip would be about enough. And they settle, as always. A lot of people, first time they go south is Phuket. And they plan all that. And he says, I've got a cleaner, I've got to make sure I've paid her for the month and she can keep doing it. There'll be less for her to clean, but I'll keep her on. And Jum's right, okay. And he says, I've got to let my friends know. Maybe they can just keep an eye on my house and make sure the cleaner's okay. Is that a good idea? Yeah. Anyway, they plan this trip and they Jum helps John with booking it all online. And they're going to go up to Bangkok, fly down to Phuket, go to a nice 5-star resort and have a holiday. So in the planning, John talks to his friends at the pub, talks to his other friend who lives in Pattaya, the one that brought him over from Australia, and actually got him to check on the cleaner. He talks to the cleaner and says he's going away for 10 days. Can she just continue as normal? Make sure there's money transferred to a bank and says your salary will be there, it'll be fine. And all good. So this relationship is just pretty much perfect now. Is there any more twists and turns? Could I just end this love story here? Nah. No, there's another twist, as always. Can you guess it though? Can you guess it? Put your comments below, let's see. Now, I'm totally lost of how long this video is. It might be a short one, it might be a long one. But I'm going to leave it there. I've got loads to do, I've got a live stream to do today. So I'm going to go and get that done and set up. Stay safe, have a great day. Catch you on the next story. And if it is a short, by mistake it's short, I'm sorry. Blame Mem bringing me halfway through. I'll see you on the next one. Ta-da.